What did you make of Toto's comments when he specifically said, "I'm signing this deal to win an eighth world title for Lewis"? If you think about Mercedes' team dynamic since forever, is that a very telling comment from Toto, or do you think he's playing to the masses?
Oh, Baxty PTSD, bro. You just can't. I can't with these lot again.
James Allison isn't coming along saying we've found 2.5 seconds. That's coming from somewhere else. I don't know where that's coming from. They're saying, look, we understand what the challenges are. We've made a concept change, and actually the big change for me is the fact that James Allison's back in the fold again.
With the guys at Silver Arrows, I feel like they are. That's the word that I'm looking for. Don't trust them, chaps. I feel like they're unreliable narrators in this.
We are seeing the same stories, like they've taken weight off the car, they're putting more downforce on the car. It's like we have seen this every year for 15 to 20 years. Just get over yourself, Ferrari. Just shut up for 5 minutes. Stop leaking. Yeah, this is the year. This is the year we're going to do it. And then Charles Leclerc's going to bin it in Bahrain and it's all over, you know.
But hold on, Baxty. As you were talking there, I was like, I'm sure Red Bull fans talk about Mercedes in a similar vein. Mercedes fans in a similar vein.
No.
You could very well be talking about Mercedes fans with that, Baxty.
And yes, you can say, science engineers the car from the racetrack. That's nonsense, man. Science isn't going to win a driver's title if he's calling the strategy from the car, from the cockpit. That's not his job.
Hello and welcome to the Shakedown podcast. It is the 18th of the 1st, 2024, and I for once have gone intro half correct, chaps. That's a 7 out of 10 one. We'll go with it, mate. I'm not going to re-record anything. How are you both doing, lads?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Been watching far too much of The Traitors this week.
Talk to me about this, because I've seen a trailer and I thought, you know what? That sounds like the BBC have run out of budget to me, and they just decided to play a Christmas game that we play for free with a bit of paper, and they're giving it a decent budget and put it in a mansion house. Agree or disagree?
Agree, but it makes compelling television. I'll say that much.
Fair play. Donate it. Shez, what have you been up to, bruv? Down there in Oz.
Work, and started recording some stuff with my cousin. So got some stuff coming out.
What sort of stuff, to be precise, Shez? What are we talking of here?
It's
too early to really make big announcements.
Yourself. It's 2024, the first month of. Give me the pitch. What are you recording?
Yeah, sure. To me, my cousin.
Can people find it more pertinently?
Yeah, so at the moment it's just a YouTube channel. It's a Tired Pod F1, spelled TYRED, Pod F1, all one word. And it's me and my cousin who's out in Los Angeles. We're basically just taking topics, not necessarily even news topics, around Formula One, and just starting with a seed of a little idea, and then just seeing where that conversation goes. And so far we've come up with some interesting things, and if you guys are interested, on the YouTube channel at the moment, we've got one brand spanking new episode, a new one coming out later on this weekend, and 3 old recordings that we did back at the beginning of last year. All of them are, I think, pretty interesting conversations. Some of them building on what we talk about here, and hopefully there'll be some more stuff coming, including a podcast. So yeah,
mate, just full send each and every time I listen to one, and it's not half bad, bro. It's not half bad. I feel like long form, before we get into F1 chat, I feel like long form content is making a comeback these days. People want to hear sensible, intelligent, rational minded people have good conversations and push back. Not that I am that.
I don't know if they're going to get. I don't know if you're going to get that, but you'll definitely get some long form. We can't stop talking. Yeah. So
no, mate, I love it. Go on then. Should we talk some F1, chaps? Shall we? Should we get into it? First, I want to pick your brains on incumbent Haas team principals, first interview with Sky Sports F1, some chap called Craig Slater, ex-footballer. Shez, I'll come to you first, bro. What did you make of the interview?
Yeah, it was a good interview. I think one of the things
was it really though, Shez?
I think one of the things that came across was he clearly doesn't want to tell us anything. A lot of the answers were just, yeah, I've got a plan. Yep, I know where we're going. Will you tell us about it? No, I don't want to tell you before I've told the rest of the team, which I think is reasonable, but it just made for a slightly stop-start interview where we didn't really get very much out of it. And actually, I thought the most interesting part of that interview was actually talking about where Ayao Komatsu had come from. It's stuff that I didn't know, but I found it very interesting. Well, not interesting, but it was fun to hear that he had got into Formula One at a young age. Decided that this is what he wanted to do, and up sticks and moved from Japan and come over to the UK and studied at Loughborough. That's commitment, right? That's really like following your dreams. And he came over here. He's picked up an engineering degree, and then he's gone and built it up from working in the back of the garage to being a race engineer for Romain Grosjean, and now he's a team principal. People have said it a lot over the past couple of weeks, but that's one hell of a journey, right? That's literally rags to riches, isn't it? So that was really good, and also interesting to hear that his interest doesn't really lie in engine or aero particularly. He's a mechanical engineering guy, likes vehicle dynamics. The reason I think that's important is just because of the way that I think this set of regulations is going. It's something that Mercedes are starting to find out now. It's something that Red Bull have really cottoned onto already. That there's more important to know about what the mechanical platform is. So actually having somebody like Ayao in charge who has that interest, that was interesting for me to know.
Oh, Shez. Well, that sounds really good on paper, bruv. I'm going to call bull feathers on it a little piece, bruv. I think I've done a couple of different 180s over the past few days on Guenther Steiner and where I sit with him. Initially, I thought, you know what? I think this was the right move because he lacks the technical competence per your assertion just now, Shez. And then I realised once again that the role of team principal is multifaceted, layered. You've got to be a jack of all trades a little bit. And we talked about the similarities between Guenther and Eddie Jordan in that he managed to drag Haas financially, kicking and screaming through the COVID times, right? I look at Ayao and I'm not sure. He said on the interview that there's no way that he's going to try and duplicate Guenther Steiner. Nobody can. That's an impossible thing. But I think there are certain commercial acumen traits that I don't think Ayao has, and I think I'd like for him to have. Baxty, tell me that I'm talking rubbish here, bro.
We kind of touched on that last week about the commercial side of things, and perhaps they need to look into maybe bringing in a commercial officer to kind of keep up the good work that Guenther had done on that front. I mean, I actually watched Guenther's interview from the Autosport that he did with Craig as well, and he basically said, I never went out of my way to be the celebrity that I was, but what it did do is it brought positive attention on the team, and it's why the likes of MoneyGram and Chipotle came on board, which is obviously exactly what we said last week as well. And I actually think that this was a good thing for Komatsu to do, to basically come out and just do an interview, say as much as he can without giving anything away first. I mean, I think he was quite brutally honest and said, look, the basic understanding is we don't want to finish last, which I think is kind of, the default position of any team, particularly in that end of the grid. Don't finish last. I think the basis of the car is that it's very quick on a Saturday, but not so good on a Sunday. And I think that's something he needs to work on, and he and the team need to work on. But I think it was also important for the morale of the team for him to go out and do an interview, because Some of the words that Gene Haas used last week, our results were embarrassing, and he was quite scathing.
Hmm.
And look, you're the team owner, and sometimes a dose of reality is quite, is needed. But I think to say that when you've just sacked a team principal who was clearly quite well liked by some of his team, not all, I would say some of his team, not all of his team, but for people to basically see the owner of the team who doesn't invest in it anyway go, our results are embarrassing. I thought perhaps for the new team principal to go out and face the media just for 10 minutes or so and get his point across as best he can, I thought it was a good thing.
And clearly for Komatsu, he doesn't seem. I mean, he said as much, right, that he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be a Guenther Steiner clone, and I don't think he's that type of personality anyway.
They don't need that. They've had Guenther Steiner. They need to move on now, and I think the last thing they would want is somebody coming in trying to be Guenther Steiner. Because all of that was very organic and very it just happened because he was himself. Whereas if somebody say if they gave me the role and I tried to be, all, I mean, I know I have a potty mouth at the best of times, but try and be like Gunter and, all everything else, I'd just be like, the people were like, no, this is fake. We don't, we want a genuine person, and that's what Gunter was.
You say that, Baxty, but in 2024, when eyes are currency, and when 25% of the F1 viewing populace has come into it via Drive to Survive, surely sponsors are going to. Surely there's more of an emphasis on screen time from the POV of sponsors than ever, right? And if you're just a standard technical director come team principal, MoneyGram and Uriah Clive before them aren't going to be too happy with that, are they, actually?
No. But then his message to the team, to quote Christian Horner, could be "fix your fucking car." If you excuse my, probably have to beep that, but you want us to get better, then we got to fix the car and get back to P5, and potentially push forward. I mean, I think that's going to take a lot of work with what the way F1 is right now, but get themselves slightly higher up, maybe consistent Q3s from their drivers as well.
Shez, how can they do that, right, with this current arrangement that they've got with Ferrari? Because again, the apple doesn't fall too far from the design philosophy tree, does it? It exhibits everything that Ferrari have, like the bloody speed on Saturday and then going backwards on Sunday, plus some. So can they get to where they need to be to satisfy key stakeholder Gene Haas with the current working arrangement, or do they need some more CapEx investment and a new setup?
I mean, they definitely need more CapEx investment. They've got an extra 20 million, which allowance. They haven't been given 20 million, but they've got an extra 20 million allowance if they want to use it, which at the moment I'd be surprised if Gene Haas actually uses it. Even in his interview, he was saying, "Oh yeah, we're close to the cost cap." Everyone else is like on it. Like, why are you close to it? You've got to. It's not a massive budget for the amount of value that your team has, and you're not even hitting that value. Nah, I don't. My problem with this is I don't see that the level of investment that is being put in is going to give Gene Haas, the return that he thinks it's going to give him. And especially now, where year on year, everybody else is making massive gains. Even if Haas does that, even if Haas does make a step forward, without proper investment and just trying to be more efficient, it's still going to be a catch up, but not an overtake of anybody ahead of them, I don't think. And it was really interesting to hear what Gene Haas had to say in his interview, because I think he sold Ayao right under the bus. His words were, "We've promoted from within." Right, number one, sounds great, but what he then said is, it's better, even if the person that you've brought in doesn't necessarily fit in, it's better to have somebody that that's who you're selling as your team principal. Poor old Aya has to come in and answer all the questions about, oh, you're not Guenther Steiner, and are you going to do things your own way? When when the team owner has basically said, "I'm not sure I've got that much confidence in him, but it's the best that we could do." That's not a great look, I don't think. So he's already sort of fighting an uphill battle. I think the one thing that Haas have in their pocket is the fact that they are a franchise team within F1 at the moment. There is value within that. So even without having a Guenther Steiner personality up front, they should still be able to get investors in and put names and sponsors on their car. But
he's struggling in the other series that he's.
I think Formula One's slightly different though. I think Formula One's slightly different in terms of like the kind of exposure that it gives you, even for the 10th team on the grid, right?
But I only say that, Shez, though, because you don't want to fight too many fires on too many different fronts. Why now? Gene Haas is the question that instantly springs to mind. If you're running another racing team in another formula, in principle, among their problems is that sponsors are leaving them left, right, and centre. Then why allow Gunther's contract to expire now?
But I think that was definitely was he pushed or did he leave? I know he says that he was surprised by the whole thing, and I didn't really see it coming. But I think that there was definitely that was coming, right? Because at some point, Gene Haas is going to say, "Look, I'm sick of Guenther saying he needs more money, and that's the only reason that he's not doing well. I can't have that." And it sounds like that's kind of what's happened. He's been left with no choice because Guenther's kind of said, "Look, we're not going any further forward. I can't do anything with the level of investment that you're putting in, so I'm out."
Let me say something about Ayao Komatsu, because I feel like he might have an issue inherent, because the world is very cruel. For those of you who watch football, I'll never forget Unai Emery trying to manage Arsenal. And he's a brilliant manager, by the way, a fantastic footballing mind. And all that the English football viewing public remember are 2 words of him: good evening. That's all that he's famous for, until recently when he started to come and do bits at Aston Villa. Fantastic racing mind, but there is a difficulty and a nuance when English is your second language and your team principal, the figurehead of a team whose like whose staff, for the vast majority of their staff, English is going to be their first language. So I was watching the Ayao Komatsu interview with that very firmly in mind, and listen, take your competence cap off for a second, Shez. This isn't that. This is about perception, right? So I was watching that with Unai Emery fresh in the mind, and the Japanese, like so good evening is quite funny to us as English speakers, but as a Spanish speaker, V's and B's are pronounced the same way. So that's why Unai Emery speaks like that, right? B's and V's are exactly the same. Japanese, L's and R's, not to go too deep on the linguistics, Baxty, I don't want to send you to sleep, but L's and R's are the equivalent in Japanese. And Ayao, if he's smart, if PR get around him, he wants to say really a lot less than he does, because that's going to become his good evening. That's going to become his equivalent of. People will hear that and just presume, because people are crazy, right, and evil by definition. People will hear that and just be like, he'll become a meme very, very quickly. Watch it back. Now that I've told you that, watch that interview back and you'll hear the really, and you'll see, not that we're going to do it, but I think a lot of the population are going to be looking at that like, okay, so this is meme worthy. True or false, chaps?
Can I just 2 things? First of all, right, as a person with a long and difficult name, I know what it's like to have my name butchered by all and sundry. Unless everyone can absolutely nail Ayao Komatsu's name every single time, I'm sorry, but nobody can say anything about the way he speaks. And actually, look, I take your point about the English speaking world, but actually, especially Haas, they're spread across 3 different countries, and actually their staff are pretty diverse. Like, the Maranello team are made up of ex-Ferrari staff, or even Ferrari staff on loan. So there's a lot of Italian spoken there. So their accents are going to be different. There's the English speaking side. There's the American speaking side. He was race engineer to a French speaker. So I don't think him being understood is necessarily a problem. I take your point about how he comes.
No, yeah, right. Yeah, it's not about being understood. You can speak perfect English, right?
Yeah,
but I'm on about the perception. When you're TP, you can get away with that when you're a technical director working behind the scenes. But now, and again, he's done interviews before, but now that you're like the figurehead for Haas, I'm not saying that he's right, but you guys have seen firsthand, yeah, that people on Twitter and social media, particularly around F1, can be wicked. And they tend to be each and every single time. So if you're out there and English is your second language and you keep saying the word really that's going to show up your deficiencies as a Japanese come English speaker, then I don't know, bruv. I think it's going to get techie for him.
I see it as an opportunity, man, because like this is the first Japanese team principal of a non-Japanese Formula One team. I think Baxter, you brought that up a few weeks ago on a post that I saw somewhere. So kudos for that. But this is his opportunity to make everything about Japanese culture also up front and center in the media. This is something that we have to not just get used to, but we should be embracing too. So I take your point, but I think that's a problem for us. That's an us problem if we start to make fun of the way that he speaks, right? And it shouldn't be for Haas or anyone else to go, we're not going to have a native Japanese speaker because we think the perception of them is going to be adverse. I'm sorry, but that's a horrible way of looking at it.
Yeah, no.
And I'll reiterate, if there's a problem with the way, if people are making fun of the way he speaks, that's an us problem, and that needs to be solved, not him.
But this is what I'm saying, though, for the avoidance of doubt. Unai Emery's failing at Arsenal, as an example, he's a brilliant footballing mind, strategically, man management, ticks all of those boxes. Okay, so he made mistakes. In my humble opinion, if I'm going to post-mortem his stint at Arsenal, I think it was the failing of it was PR. Good evening overtook everything that I've just said, right? All of the traits. You don't think so, Baxty? Talk to me, bro.
So for full disclosure, I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan. So normally I would love to absolutely dump all over Arsenal, but I think that's a bit simplistic. There was a lot of problems with that team. They could have done better at, managing that. But sometimes these, as we saw with Guenther's fame, things just happen organically and sometimes you can't stop it. And I think, honestly, until it happens, I just don't think there's any reason to really worry about all of this stuff. How many times did we see non-English native English speakers say the words for sure? Felipe Massa, every third sentence we were going, oh yeah, for sure, yeah, for sure. And Stefano Domenicali was horrendous at that as well. It's just it's a quirk of language, and I think rather than not take the mickey, but I think just poke holes in it, we should just let the guy do his job and carry on, basically, and judge him not for his memes but for his performance.
Well said, Baxty, and I hope that carries forth, mate. I hope that the F1 watching population can also be on that side of the coin, but I don't know, bruv. Been watching sports a long time, man, and people can be wicked sometimes, especially with Twitter fingers and IG and TikTok. You know what I mean? Desperate for memes that will go viral. But I digress. Go on then, chaps. Shall we move across to brighter horizons? And so I was going to say Mercedes then, but that's not true, is it? Shall we talk about McLaren and a livery reveal, and then we can talk about Mercedes? I thought that livery reveal was sick, lads. I will be honest. I like the way it came out the blue. I at least didn't know the date. I think the production on the video was epic. I loved seeing the bloody all papaya car, and then it transitioned to, mate, Listen, inject it into my veins. I'm here for McLaren. Shez, talk to me about this livery reveal. Were you like me, overly enthusiastic, or did you think otherwise?
Initially, I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then I saw it, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing!" I also really, really like the livery. Like, I know people are going to make fun of it and say it looks very similar to last year, but actually, I really liked it. I'm really glad they've got rid of the pale blue. And I think Will Buxton brought this up, but I really, really like the fact that although it's papaya and anthracite, boom, it still echoes the shape of that old Marlboro red and white, red and day glow, white and day glow
Does
livery
it?
from the from the 80s, man. I love
Does it
it.
really?
Yeah, like you know that if he did a nice little picture where he's overlaid the colors um of the 80s 90s cars, and he's overlaid that onto the shape of the livery of the current car. It just, you see it and you can't unsee it, and it just looks
It's
awesome.
similar to the livery that they did in IndyCar, I think, like the Marlboro
Yeah,
tribute livery they did in IndyCar. So
yes, similar.
yeah,
Yeah,
very similar to that. I love the livery. I thought flexing the new wind tunnel as well was a nice touch to be like,
yeah.
yeah, we're serious now, whatever it takes. You know,
I hope they are serious, chaps. I hope they
Oh,
are.
they
And
are.
they're
Oh, they
making the
are.
right movements at least, for whatever that's worth. You know, and you kind of like want to hear, I don't know, I don't really want to hear too much from them. They're doing more than they're saying. In stark contrast, chaps, to Mercedes. Baxty, what are we doing already? Let me go first on this. As if I have any more faith to lose, I am losing more faith. I just, okay, look. Fair play, Toto signed a new contract, 3 years or whatever. Fair play, James Allison signed a new contract. I'm happy for that. That's all positive. But yet and still, the chunterings coming out from them. I hope they're sandbagging me. I hope this is all like psychology and there's nothing to read in what they're saying and the worries that they're expressing. I hope that Mercedes can smash 2024 and do everything that's been promised for the last 24 months. But you know what, chaps? Gun to the head, Baxty. There's no way that I'm putting 1 cent of my money on Mercedes winning anything this year. Tell me why I'm being noddy and overly pessimistic, please.
honestly, I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I can expand upon this now, but I think Mercedes are the great unknown this year because they are the one coming in with the biggest concept change. You know, you could see that they were ridiculously solid with their sort of hybrid mule car, and that they could pretty much be maybe the second, third, fourth fastest car, depending on the track and which other teams were doing well. Yeah, slight minor prediction here, but I think Mercedes the probably finish around either second to fourth. I think they're really hard to place in that area. And I think the reason they could finish as low as fourth is simply because of the trajectory that Ferrari and McLaren are showing towards the end of last year. Whereas Mercedes have clearly understood that, okay, yeah, look, this concept does not work. Due to the cost cap, we can't fully change it, but we can learn a lot of lessons. James Allison has clearly seen the challenge that's been presented before him. He could go off and do the boats because he'd done everything. He'd gone to Mercedes. He'd helped them, retain their dominance. He'd beaten Ferrari, his former employers. Uh, he'd done everything he needed to do. But now Adrian Newey is back at the forefront of the sport, destroying everybody as he used to. As a designer, somebody with that reputation, if I'm James Allison, I'm putting pen to paper on a 3-year deal. And I love what he said, basically saying, basically talking about Everest and, saying that, it's not unenjoyable, the challenge. I thought that was just, I love James Allison. He's a very engaging speaker, even in print or spoken format. And I think it's a sign of quiet confidence from Mercedes that Toto Wolff and James Allison feel the need to put pen to paper on new contracts, and they're up for the fight. They are really up for this. They don't know how long it's going to take, and I think they're accepting that this year probably isn't going to be the year. But I want to pitch this to you, Cameron, specifically. I'll take over the question role for a
Let's
second.
go.
What did you make of Toto's comments when he specifically said, "I'm signing this deal to win an eighth world title for Lewis"? If you think about Mercedes' team dynamic since forever, is that a very telling comment from Toto, or do you think he's playing to the masses?
Oh, Baxty PTSD, bro. Just you just can't. I can't with these lot again. Listen, it sounds good, bro. That's the exam answer. Well, even then, I don't know whether that's the exam answer, particularly if your name's George Russell. Like, what are you talking about, Toto?
Yeah.
Like, I think here's what Toto is. I think Toto likes to. His personality and the type of leader that Toto Wolff is becoming is evolving before our eyes. Right, when he first came on the scene, I don't think he would have necessarily engaged in all this bloody PR posturing stuff and saying the right thing for saying the right thing's sake, or what he thinks is the right thing. What do I make of the statement by itself? I'd love to hear it. If that's the truth, I'd love to. But then again, Baxty, I put on my pessimism cap straight back on, and I'm like, if I'm a team principal, is that the thing? Cost benefit analysis, Baxty as a leader, each and every single bloody time. That's everything that comes out your mouth. You kind of need to have a risk manage it before you say it, right? And as what does Toto have to gain from that apart from currying favour with the masses? It's a great soundbite, right? And the Lewis Hamilton Emirati are gonna like lose their SH1T for that. But what are you gaining in track time? That's the question that I'm trying to ask Baxty.
Yeah.
What does that gain you in track time? And if it doesn't gain you a split second in track time, then forget it. Don't say it, bro, because I'm just like I'm done with the talking now, Baxty and Shez. I want to see action. Or I feel like that's it's classic. It's just I don't care, bro. There was, if you'd asked me like 24 months ago, I would have liked. You would have heard me argue that I want to see Toto kind of get out in front of the press and back it more. Now, chaps, all I want to see is Mercedes develop a car, and I don't think that those statements fill me with confidence, or yeah, they don't fill me with. It's like I feel like he's focusing on the wrong things, Baxty. Not necessarily, but perhaps.
Let me pitch this back at you in response. Is that I feel like, yes, he was doing that to play to the masses, but I also feel like he was doing that as well, maybe to send a message, because I mean, that sounded to me like he's made a decision that we think this car is going to be decent and Lewis is going to be our number one driver, which would go against everything Mercedes has done, and maybe they felt the need to make that decision already. But also maybe he was also playing to Lewis a little bit as well, basically saying, I've got confidence in this car. I have confidence in you. You have signed a 2-year deal, but if that car's crap, I'm sure Lewis might try and go elsewhere if he's got a third year of crap machinery, and I wouldn't blame him. And I think this is him going, look, I'm confident in this team, I'm confident in you, and I'm confident that we can get back to where we are. You know, it was a nice little point in Lewis's direction, I feel.
You know what, Baxty would give me more. I'm going to throw to you in a sec, Shez, but you know what would give me more confidence, Baxty, if I just didn't hear anything from any of them for a bit.
Even Anthony Davidson.
Bro, I don't want to hear anything from anyone. Even Anthony.
He has.
Yeah, he said that
but it came from Toto.
Yeah,
it came from Toto. Toto said right. Anthony said it. Yeah.
Okay.
What are we doing? I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid this year, chaps. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I've seen their car for 2 years now and said, oh my God, that's going to be a rocket ship. Listen to the way they're talking. They sound much more confident this year. And then lo and behold, it kicks off again and Red Bull are like bloody 0.6 down the road or whatever. I'm just like, no, I can't do it to myself. I will reserve judgment until I see some evidence from them on March the 2nd at Bahrain. Shez, talk to me, bro, because I know you're infinitely more optimistic in Mercedes being successful in 24 than
I'm fully behind Baxty on this one. I think Toto's comments were definitely aimed at Lewis more than anybody else. And if you're talking about track time, that's your track time right there. And if he walks out at the end of 2025, up with the end of 2024, because he's like, I've had enough of this nonsense, well, that's a whole heap of track time you've just thrown out the window.
Oh, what's your track time keeping Lewis engaged?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that's very important. But also, Cameron, I think they're being very, very reserved this season ahead of 2024. If you compare what McLaren are saying about their prospects for this year versus what Mercedes are saying about their prospects for this year, and they're kind of two teams that are converging a little bit. In terms of where they're trying to get to. Sort of Mercedes are sort of, from a high of 2020, 2021 to trying to get back to where they were. McLaren on that trajectory, they're all trying to come to the same place, but Mercedes have been chastened, haven't they, a little bit by the comments that they've made pre-season for the last couple of seasons. And I think actually they've been quite reserved. James Allison isn't coming along saying we've found 2.5 seconds. That's coming from somewhere else. I don't know where that's coming from. They're saying, look, we understand what the challenges are. We've made a concept change, and actually the big change for me is the fact that James Allison's back in the fold again. This is akin to Newey, sort of circa 2018, 2019, going, yeah, I've had enough of America's Cup and my team aren't doing so well. Let me get back to the drawing board. He's done the same thing. If that's not an omen, I don't know what it is. But also, McLaren are on the other side of that. McLaren are sort of, okay, we made big changes last year. We've got a new technical infrastructure. We've organised ourselves in a way that we think is going to work. We've got a new wind tunnel. We've got a new driver in sim. We've got good commercial backing. All of the pieces that we've been talking about since 2018, 2019 are all in place now. We have no excuses. Let's go. We're going to do it. And they've got reason to be optimistic. So one team is talking themselves down, one team has to talk themselves up. That's just how this is going to play out. And personally, yes, I'm optimistic about how things are going to go at Mercedes. I think they were a little dogmatic. They were a little bit stubborn. I know I've defended them before. I'd still back what I said at the beginning of 2024, but they know where they went wrong. They've had a year to sort things out. The one thing that I really enjoyed about James Allison, and he said this in the interview that we talked about beforehand, the Performance People interview, was that the problem that Mercedes had under Mike Elliott was that everybody was so intense and so wanting to get back to the front that they just went into their little silos, did their little thing, and then brought it all together. And there wasn't that amalgamation of all of those pieces. Whereas now, James Allison's a samurai. The way he talks is about going into battle, bringing everyone with us, like a proper leader. And what he's talked about is bringing all those department heads together, having the conversations alongside the drivers. And that's something that's happened this season. Lewis has talked about it as well, that they're having more conversations with them about what they want from the car, which is something that I know you guys have both wanted. Listen to the drivers. They're doing that. And I think now having that amalgamation of all those different aspects, all those different departments, everything coming together makes me feel more optimistic. That's a Red Bull trait. That's what Adrian Newey does. Newey brings people together and just brings in the seed of a little idea every now and again and says, why don't you think about this? Why don't you do this? That's what I think having James Allison there does. And that's what makes me optimistic about this.
Shez, I don't want to piss on your flames, brother. You've put that very, very well, but I can't help but be pessimistic. If we're talking about this, of course, bro, if we're talking about this, I'm just trying to think, maybe I've overreached on my pessimism, but I'm asking myself, Cameron, why are you so pessimistic apart from the most recent historic results? Because they're 8-time constructors. They have the potential to revert to the, like, there's super successful, right? Okay, so they haven't been a Red Bull. Here's why I'm pessimistic, though, chaps. I'll be honest with you. It's not just the bloody car, is it? Okay, so the car is the biggest portion of the whole, but operationally they've been SH1T. Pit stops, they've been flopping. Driver hierarchy. These are all actions that sit unresolved at the bottom of their spreadsheet. So I just don't. I think if they fix the car, that's like, yeah, cool. Well, I will take that. I'll be happy with just that. But if we're talking about this under the umbrella of Lewis or George being able to fight a Max Verstappen in his Red Bull with that team around him, and Hannah Schmidt and Christian Horner and Adrian Newey, if that's what we're talking about, one of George Russell or Lewis Hamilton being able to challenge properly, materially for a championship in 2024, then I can't help being pessimistic because of all of the aforementioned. Baxty, hit me.
Yeah,
bro.
so just reading around some of the comments that James Allison's made, obviously in relation to this contract extension that's been announced, this one jumps out at me the most. He goes, however, what we do have some hope for is that some of the more spiteful characteristics of the rear end of our car will be a bit more friendly to us and the handling of the car a happier thing. And this is the important line. That's all in simulation, but nevertheless, we've got reasonable grounds to believe that we've made some gain there. So he's basically saying this is what we've targeted, but we are being cautious that we want to make sure that what we're seeing in the simulations is then what correlates onto tracks. That was a big problem as well they had, is that the data they were getting from their simulations was not correlating onto the track, which is a very unusual problem for Mercedes to have. But with this new era, they just couldn't find the right balance. Hopefully this will get fixed. And another thing on pit stops, I have read that they have invested in their equipment to get better at pit stops. Though it seems that Toto is taking the pit stops issue seriously, and Ron Meadows and whoever's in charge of that.
And not a second before time, Baxley, let's be honest.
Austin was the catalyst, let's be honest. I mean,
it's awful, isn't it?
you and I was sat there in the last lap studio just going...
I looked at Baxty as Lewis went in. I looked at Baxty. I said, "Yeah, let's watch this."
Tomo looked straight at us. He knew what was coming. It was
let's see what happened. It felt like a Final Destination film. The ending was only ever going to be bloody negative, and that's what it's felt like. I still think, chaps, I pray to all of the F1 gods that you guys are absolutely nailed and Mercedes make a mug of me, but I still can't help. I can't avoid the Mercedes pessimism because of the most recent history. Because for me, chaps, you know, when you read a book and it's do you remember when Mourinho said Arsene Wenger is a specialist in failure? That's probably a bit extreme to talk about Mercedes just now. That's not them.
Seasons.
No, that's not them. That's extreme. That's extreme. But what from the likes of Allison and Toto, who have been talking this stuff for the best part of 24 months now, along these lines, positivity, let's go, we'll solve for it, we've got this brilliant idea, peaky curve, the car's got performance. I've been hearing this for 24 months. Chaps, when that car was bouncing, only weeks earlier, Toto Wolff was talking about how much performance that car had in it. So pull the other one, chaps. Let's not go on like this is some newfound optimism and optimism that they've just happened upon, because that's not true. But I feel like with the guys at Silver Arrows, I feel like they are, what's the word that I'm looking for? I don't trust them, chaps. I feel like they're unreliable narrators in this. I genuinely don't trust them. Until I see it, I won't believe it. That's just the way I am now. Rightfully or wrongfully. Too much skin in this game, Shez. I can't do it, bro. Won't do it.
Can I ask you, but what is your hope and expectation for this season in terms of their like where they stand next to Red Bull?
Well, you got to make your objectives smart, haven't you, Shez? There can't be. I think it's unreasonable having lost. It's not 24. It's 24 times 2, right? They've lost 24 months and everybody else has advanced 24 months. So let's call it 48 months. Having lost 48 months to the rest, it's unreasonable for me to expect over the course of like I don't know,
A winter.
6-7 months maybe if they've extended their development period. It's unreasonable for me to expect them to bridge that gap in that short space of time. It's a big bloody gap, Shez. It's a big gap because let's not forget we didn't even see Red Bull turn up their car to 12 pretty much all of last season as they were managing and focusing on next year's bloody car. If they could win a couple of races, or you know what, that's probably even a bit. If they could compete, if they could go like wheel to wheel without getting disqualified after the fact with Red Bull for a race or two, bro, I'd probably be happy with that. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, okay.
Probably not happy, but content. You know.
Yeah, because I think that's realistic, right? That's what both McLaren and Mercedes are talking about. Neither of them are talking about overtaking Red Bull and winning the championship. Yes, that's the aim. But I don't think
Toto's
realistically
talking about the 8th, isn't he? So stop
but he's not saying
dicking, mate.
But he's not saying 2024. This is the year it's definitely going to happen.
Well, just don't talk. There's an old lyric from a rap song that I love that's don't speak about it, be about it. Shez, I don't want to hear. Obviously, F1 is PR driven and they have to do interviews and talk. But I'm not looking to. I haven't even read or listened to anything from Allison or Wolff. I want to read what happened. I don't want to read their quotes anymore because I just find it. I don't think I can't engage it meaningfully anymore, Shez, because I don't think it's useful, bruv. Too many times now. Unreliable narrator and serial killers as far as telling porkies out here. They are.
I think the problem isn't that you've talked about Mercedes losing time to the rest. I think everybody's been guilty of not reading the wind, because the only person that understood what the concept should be was Adrian Newey. He was the only one, right? And he pushed Red Bull to he designed the front and rear suspension of the Red Bull RB18 himself. That's how much he understood that the marriage between mechanical and aero was changing this season. That's how much he knew that was important, right? And nobody else got it. No one else got it. James Allison, even this week, has said, and only this week has said that we always thought you just whack on downforce and the mechanical guys would just sort it out. And it's only now we're realizing that that's not what happened. Adrian Newey knew it 2 years ago. But it's not like Mercedes are the only ones. It happened right the way down the pit lane. You remember, the preseason tests beginning of 2022. Whose meme did they show bouncing up and down? It wasn't Mercedes. It was Ferrari bouncing up and down the back straight in Barcelona. They had the same problem. Everyone did.
Yeah.
I don't care about everyone else. You know what you sound like, Shez? You know when when you used to get caught for being naughty at school and then you come home and you say, but everyone was doing it, Mum. Everyone was doing it. I don't care about everyone else. I'm a Mercedes fan. And I want to see I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan first, and selfishly I want to see Lewis not do wells. Of course I want to see him do well, but to be precise, I don't want to see any one of those drivers' talents wasted for an extended period of time. And Lewis hasn't had the lengths or the tenure of bad cars that an Alonso has, but still he's nearing the end of his career. We had this brilliant battle in 2021. I, for one, was invested in the rematch, and we haven't got to see it because Mercedes haven't built a car, and I think that's bloody sad. And I'm going to remain a Mercedes pessimist until further notice, Baxty.
All I'm going to say is this. It could be worse. We could be having our yearly dose of Ferrari copium right now, and hopium.
Oh, mate.
Like, we are seeing the same stories. Like, they've taken weight off the car. They're putting more downforce on the car. It's like, we have seen this every year for 15 to 20 years. Just get over yourself, Ferrari. Just shut up for 5 minutes. Stop leaking. Yeah, this is the year. This is the year we're going to do it. And then Charles Leclerc is going to bin it in Bahrain and it's all over,
Oi.
But hold on, Baxty. I'm sure Red Bull fans, as you were talking there, was like, I'm sure Red Bull fans talk about Mercedes in a similar Mercedes fans in a similar vein.
No.
You could very well be talking about Mercedes fans with that, Baxty.
Mate, this is like a sustained period. Like this is Mercedes year 3, and Mercedes fans at the moment are kind of like, you better deliver a car, otherwise we're going to be on your ass, Mercedes. We're going to be asking a lot of hard questions of you. Whereas Ferrari are asking the hard questions, but also saying this is the year that Charles Leclerc becomes world champion. You know,
that is far too far. I shan't have that. I know. We've got a resident
the
Charles
copium
Leclerc
and the
fan.
hopium is strong.
I know with both Ferrari and Mercedes fans apparently.
Oh,
Shez, tell me why Charles Leclerc can mount a challenge here, because again he's another one. I'm not sure whether I'm more pessimistic about Mercedes' chances.
That's not what I'm.
I'll be honest. I don't know whether I'm more pessimistic about Mercedes' chances as plays Charles Leclerc's chances of winning a drivers' championship ever in life.
What? Ever?
Mate, I'll be honest with you, bro. I'll be honest with you. Mistakes don't win championships, Shez. You can't make so many enforced errors and have hopes of beating Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton. It's pipe dreams, bro. So a question. Let me ask you this question then. I know we've had the conversation about it was the car. It was the car. The car was the reason why he's making so many mistakes. How old is Charles Leclerc now? He's getting on, isn't it? He must be like 25, 26 maybe.
Getting on.
He's not
getting on. My God.
In driver's years, I'm definitely not one to talk about.
Well, not anymore, because Fernando's still going at 42.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Yeah, I think life is different now, isn't it?
So Charles 26 years old, yeah. But I'm not talking about it I'm not saying he's only got a couple of years of F1 career left. I'm saying that I'm expecting at 20. Alonso was trumping Schumacher at this age. So let's not get it twisted for context and table setting. So my question to you, Shez, is I don't think Charles Leclerc gets it done by having the mindset that, okay, so it's just the car. When they fix the car, then I'll come on and stop making mistakes. I don't think that's it. I heard my guy Peter Winter talking about Nigel Mansell the other day, and that he didn't getting the car easier to drive was never an imperative that will come out from a Mansell or a Prost or a Senna, right? They just wanted to drive the car fast. So I'll ask the question this way, Shez. Doesn't Charles Leclerc need to take some ownership in order to make that next step that will see him capable of challenging for a world championship? You can't say it's just the car, bruv, because I don't think that's what does he need to do more than taking some responsibility and accountability? It can't just be the car, though, Shez, surely.
Well, I think the responsibility is in making sure that Ferrari build. Start to make the car work for him, which is what he did, especially after Japan. I thought he was the standout driver of the season from Japan onwards. Yeah, okay. I mean, we can argue that, but I think he was.
Him and Lando, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But he had Charles had a much better Vegas race than Lando did, and. You can put that down to the car as well. The car is important, but look, I think Charles has two options, right? He either has a car that isn't gonna win races, but he absolutely pelts it, right, and just tries to get it to do things that it sometimes isn't willing to do, or he accepts and sometimes gets a result out of it. Or he goes, all right, fine, I'm just going to back it off. And that's not Charles, but fine. Let's say he does that, which is kind of what Lewis did towards the end of the season last year. He just said, what is the point in me doing this, flogging this car when I'm not going to get a result out of it? And the last 3 races, he was just like, fine, whatever, I'll just back off. Fine, you're not going to crash the car doing that, but you're also not going to get a big result. But we know, and I know that when the car does work, this is what Peter Windsor was saying as well. This is absolutely what he was saying, that when the car works, because it is a symbiosis of car and driver, those two things have to come together. To try and say that don't blame it on the car, I think that's not how F1 works. It's both of those things together. And when it clicks for him, and it did towards the end of the season, he was formidable. And at the beginning of 2022, when it clicked for him, he was again, for me, the standout driver at the beginning of that season. So when he has the car, mate, the way he played chicken with Max Verstappen in Bahrain and Jeddah.
I've already said it, bro. That geezer is
and even in Austria, as soon as he has a car to do it, he made 4 overtakes in Austria for the lead. Didn't miss a beat, not once. When he has a car, he will do it. But Ferrari are the question mark, and I've said it time and time again. It's not just the car; it's operationally and strategically. If they can't get that right, it's not going to work. And yes, you can say, "Oh, science engineers the car from the racetrack." That's nonsense, man. Science isn't going to win a driver's title if he's calling the strategy from the car, from the cockpit. That's not his job. That's not why he's employed. And if he's having to do that, that's a suboptimal person making the strategy calls. He's not going to win a driver's title that way. The way that it's going to work is if they hire someone or develop processes that mean that their strategy is on point every single time. It has to be out of his hands, otherwise he's not going to win a title.
They have made the change. They've got rid of their head of strategy and brought somebody else in to do the job. They can't do any worse, surely.
Third change in 2 seasons. But actually, I thought that actually the way they went about their business in Singapore absolutely maximized what they could do. Even aside from Sainz's DRS gravity thing at the end, their play for that race was on point.
I would say that to give some courage to our Ferrari listeners is that I think they have made a decision on who their number 1 driver is, and I think it is Charles. Yeah, that update definitely went towards him and the results he was delivering. And there's rumours of this big long contract that has taken longer than the Brexit negotiations to sort out. And that's a 5-year commitment. If you're doing that for a level pegging guy, then why would Charles sign that contract?
Yeah. And I don't think they would have even been talking about that if the car hadn't come to him. And that was Ferrari saying, look, we understand we have problems, but we've developed a car that works for you and is fast.
Yeah.
Commit with us.
I think they've made their choice for sure.
Which bodes well. But again, this is the Pessimism Shakedown podcast, isn't it? I don't know. Where's the material variable change in Charles Leclerc? Because you say all this stuff, Shez, lastly, and we'll leave you on this. You say all this about Charles Leclerc towards like Q4 last season, and he was good. Like he's a brilliant driver. He's very fast, probably the quickest on the grid in equal machine. We've all agreed to that. You can take that to the bank. However, even when the machinery lent itself to his driving style, there was still, Shez, the bloody unforced errors. Like I said to Peter Windsor, Las Vegas, and then not the errors, bruv. Las Vegas, turn 12. You make the mistake in the sim race, that race weekend, like the Friday, and then you make the same bloody mistake in the actual race. You're not even competing. You're not racing for all the marbles, bruv. The championship isn't at stake. This is like what do you call like on the F1 game? It's like a single race. Like it's not a championship, right? There are 0 stakes. Why is I still think Charles Leclerc fans need to be concerned if that dude, when there is no stakes, when it's just him and a good car, he's still making these noddy, unforced errors. Because surely
the big one for me was Imola 22
and Miami and France 22. There's been and Monaco every single bloody. There's been loads, chaps. You could write a white paper on them and why they're happening. That's not to say, Shez, I'm not saying the blasphemous thing, which is that Charles Leclerc is a noddy driver. He's a brilliant driver, but you've got to add in the whole truth. He's a brilliant driver who keeps making noddy, unforced errors. And drivers that make noddy, unforced errors, I don't care if you're the quickest driver who's ever pedalled an F1 car in history, drivers that make so many unforced errors with such frequency don't win world championships. That's what history tells us. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is the Cameron is wrong about everything podcast, chaps. But I'm not sure that Mercedes will prove me. Mercedes, Ferrari, and Charles will prove me incorrect. Go on, Shez, hit me, bruv. Lastly, in a moment.
All I'm going to say is nobody is mistake free. Quali 3, Jeddah, 2021. The man still won the title. It's still doable. And that was a close championship.
Shez, you remember, I've said on a number of occasions, right, the frequency of his mistake. I'm not saying that he's going to be perfect. He doesn't need to be perfect. You are right in that. You are correct. That assertion is nailed. But the frequency of his unforced errors, he's the unforced error PhD master on the F1 grid. Nobody makes an unforced error like Charles. He makes the good ones.
I don't think they're unforced. You heard his
unforced.
Team radio.
How was Miami not unforced? And how was Imola not unforced? And how was Las Vegas not unforced?
So Vegas, what did he say in the team radio at the end? I really wanted this one. I really wanted it, right? That's him. He's pushing for a race win every single race because he knows that he just wants that race win. So there are stakes for him. There were stakes for him at the beginning of last season too. So, but this is...
You're a racing driver, Shez.
Mate, that's different from him putting a championship together. And he has done that in the past. Not in F1, but in F2, he put together... He knows how to put a title challenge together and win it.
Oh.
So, look, I'm going to leave this space open, but I think saying that the unforced errors are going to cost him a title, I think is wide of the mark. Yes, I'm taking a gamble on that, but let's see.
Because why finally, Shez? Because you think...
Because when he has the car...
He won't make any unforced errors. Or
I'm correct. I'm not saying he won't make any errors. I'm saying that the error rate will come down because he's not having to fight the car as well. And what I said before is in Miami, when he made that mistake, that was him overreaching and trying to make allowances not just for the car but for the entire team.
Right. Shez, we'll check in.
Revisit
again.
Yeah.
This needs revisit.
I look forward to this.
I'll take an action because it's techie. Right, guys. That has been a very techie episode of the Shakedown podcast. One which I'm sure we will have to review and react to at some point down the line. Very, very, very techie. Those have been my co-hosts, Shezinho and Baxty. I've been Cameron F1. We'll be back same time, same place next week. As always, remember to subscribe, like, comment, leave a review if you're listening on a podcasting platform. But above all, to look, but never stare.